The question we've been asked is, how do I manage my taxes, in uLaw, and what do I need to do when I actually pay my HST or my GST on a regular basis to the government? What do I do in the software? Now, you got to remember that every time you put an expense, whether it's a disbursement or whether it is, an office expense, or even when you actually, create an invoice, the software automatically records HST. So let's look at some of the examples. Like for example, here I put a parking expense here. So when I click on it, it tells me that the parking expense overall was $13, okay, and it was actually done from my pocket. But it also tells us that it was assigned against travel as an expense, and the HST payable here was $1.50. Now, if you're from a province where there was GST and PST applicable, these accounts would change too. Now, once that has been applied, now if I actually look at an invoice, for example, if I go to accounts receivable, and I actually look at an invoice here, like for example, a legal invoice 2381 that was created, and if I actually open it, it tells me that the invoice total amount was $610.20, but there's an HST receivable here of $720. So as you see here, under accounts, under liability, under taxes, we capture 6 different kinds of taxes. HST payable, HST receivable, GST payable, GST receivable, PST payable, and PST receivable. Now, these reports for these 3 taxes can actually be generated in uLaw by a very quick click. What we can do is we can say document generation, tax, and we can choose one of the 3 and choose which quarter or which monthly or year that you want the report for, and you can hit the download button. As soon as you download the report will lay out for you all the HST that you have been collecting and paying. It kind of gives you a quick summary at the end of the totals, and also if you look on top, it gives you, whether you owe or you will receive, an HST. Correct. Now, at some point, you will be either writing a check to the government or receiving a check from the government. And when you actually do that, you need to come back to the software to tell us what you actually did with that check. When you actually decide to pay the HST, or even if or when you actually receive a check from the government after you actually claim the HST with this report, you have to come back to the software and tell us what you did. Now, in both cases, it's the same way you would report it into the software. You say action, transfer, tax, remittance. And there are 2 things that you need to mention here. You have the collected and the paid amount. And when you actually put this, it'll actually tell you whether it's a refund or it's actually something that you owe to the government. So in this case, we collected 1267.07 while we paid 227.23 just in this quarter. We immediately tell you that you owe this much to the government. So let's assume that this is the date when you actually wrote the check. You can say what bank you actually wrote the check from. That's the details of the method of payment. You give the check number and you can hit the transfer button. And then now you can go write the check and actually post it to the government. Now, if it was the reverse, you would just, put the amount owing and collected and the payable. It will immediately tell you that it's actually the reverse, and you can actually, deposit the check into whatever account. So to summarize, you would go into the software under document generation, taxes, and generate one of these reports. And when you actually generate these reports, based on whether you owe or you get a check from the government, you'll go to action, transfer, and then you'll hit the tax remittance button to actually complete the action in the software.